Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 2 of Finding Discounts and Sales Using Partitioning. This is Math with Miss Mila, based out of Academy of Hope Adult Public Charter School. Whoop whoop. Sorry, jumping right back in. Last time we used partitioning, which is breaking a number into parts, to help us find half of even numbers. Even numbers are generally easier to find half of because it's part of what makes them even, is that you can cut them evenly in half. Odd numbers are a little bit trickier, but partitioning is going to really turn them into numbers we can work with. Let's jump right in. The first number we have to partition is 15. Why do we have to partition it? Well, because there's a sale going on. A half off, 50% off, half price sale. It says so right there. The regular price of the shirt is $15. We want to figure out how much we would spend if we got it on sale. 15 is odd. Whoa, I don't know how to find half of that. I'm going to lead by breaking it into numbers that are easier for me to work with. The easiest way to do that is to just use place value, tens and ones. This is not the only way, but it's an easy way, and that's how I'm going to start. 10 plus 5 is 15. 10 is an even number. I know how to find half. I'm not going to break it down or partition it into smaller parts. 5, on the other hand, is an odd number, and I don't know how to partition it. I don't know how to find half, so I will partition it. Lots of ways you could do it. I'm going to go with 4 plus 1, because 4 is an even number I know how to find half of, and 1 is an odd number I know how to find half of. I draw my dotted line, and I'm going to put half of each of these parts into this little area just to stay organized. So if I break the 10 in half, 1 half is what I keep. 5 is half of 10. If I break 4 in half, I get to keep 2. So far we have 5 plus 2. If I break 1, half of it is 1 half, and as a decimal, we write that 0.5 or 0.50, 50 cents. I'm going to add that one too. 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 0.5, 7.5. 7.50, it's the same thing. 7.5 is what I got when I added together half of each of the parts. Half of each of the parts is going to be the same as half of the original whole. Now remember, when I split these in half, I said I'm going to put half in my little dotted line area. That means there's like an invisible 5. That's the other half, right? 5 plus 5 is 10. Here there's like an invisible 2. That's the other half of 4. 2 plus 2 is 4. And there's even an invisible 0.5, because 0.5 plus 0.5 is 1. This is important because I can check my work, which is always important, by taking the other half, which is 7.5, and adding it to the half I'm taking, which is 7.5. If I did my math right, my 2 halves should add up to the whole, what I started with. Here we go. 5 plus 5 is 10. Carry the 1. My decimal point maintains its spot. 7 plus 7 is 14 plus 1. Aha! Is 15. 15.0, $15. Those are the same amount. I found half correctly. I'm going to record it and get started on the next one. Boom. The pants. $21.50. Not only do we have an odd number of dollars, we have change to worry about. Do not fear. Switch up as I go. So, like I said, there's lots of ways to partition. I'm going to just go with my tens and my ones, because place value makes sense to me. 20 in my tens, 1 in my ones, and I'm going to just add another part. When you partition, you can partition into 2 or more parts. 0.5. Okay. Looking at this, I actually am not going to partition these numbers any more because I know how to work with 20. I can find half of 20. It's an even number. 1 is an odd number that's very friendly. I know how to work with it. So if not friendly, it's familiar. I've seen it before. I've worked with it before. And 0.5. I'm going to go with it. When working with change, it's important to know what half of 50 cents is. So I'm not going to partition it anymore. But if you want to see how I do partition 50 cents, you can look at the last video. I'm going to make my area where I'm keeping track of my halves. I split 20 in half. That's 10. Remember, there's another little invisible half, the other half, that goes back here. We're just going to keep track of it so we can check our work. 1 gets split into a half and a half. Be very careful how you write it, because if you get your decimal point messed up, it's the difference between 50 cents, 5 cents, and $5. Here's the other half that we're going to use when we check. 0.5 plus 0.5 is 1. And my 50 cents, half of that is going to be 25 cents. 1/4. And it's the other half, the other quarter, is here. Off. Usually I don't even write it, but just so we can see it. 10.5.25. All right. We have half of each part. Let's add them together. 10 plus, I'm going to add the change first. 0.5 plus 0.25. Think of this as 50 cents plus 25 cents. It's going to be 75 cents. Don't do what I just did and write 75 with no decimal point. Please. Add your point and add that 0 in the ones place to hold your space. 10 plus 75 cents, $10.75. Again, we always want to check our work, because it's an easy way to correct ourselves before we lose points on the test. I'm going to take this half and I'm going to add it with the other half, the one that's usually invisible, that we put in the back. Again, if I did my math right, these should add up to make that original price $21.50 before it was cut in half. 5 plus 5, 10. 7 plus 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. I carry the 1. I've come to my decimal point. I'm going to make sure I write it down. Don't mess around with the decimal point. Address it right away. So far, so good. 50 cents. 50 cents. Let me keep going. 0 plus 0 is 0. Plus 1 more is 1. And finally, 1 plus 1, 2. $21.50. $10.75 is exactly half of $21.50, and we were able to check our work here. And we're down to the last item, a watch for $35. I'm going to go with the oldie but goodie of splitting it into place value first. 30 plus 5. 30 is an even number, but it's not one I find half of all the time. So just to be safe, I'm going to split it into numbers that I'm super comfortable with. 20 and 10. You don't have to do that part if you know off the top of your head that half of 30 is 15. 5, an odd number, not going to do it. I'm going to split it into an even number and another odd number that I'm comfortable with. 20 plus 10 plus 4 plus 1. 30, 34, 35. That is the full regular price of this watch. A dotted line, so I can organize my writing. I'm going to put half of each part in here. Half of 20 is 10. Half of 10 is 5. And that's where that 15 comes from if you had skipped the step and gone straight into half of 30. Half of 4 is 2. Half of 1, 50 cents, 0.5. If I add these guys all up, 10 plus 5 is 15. 17. $17.50. Remember, when we split in half, we kept the other half invisible, but this 20 was split into 10 and 10. This 10 was split into 5 and 5. This 4 was split into 2 and 2. And this one was split into 0.5 and 0.5. Each half is 1750. 17.50. 17.50. I'm checking my work. You can just watch here. Don't mess around with the decimal point. Always line it up. 7 and 7 is 14. This is 15. Carry the 1. 1 plus 1 plus 1. 35.00. Yay! That's the same as 35 with no 0.00. Alright. So, with this sale, we would get the watch, not for 35, but for what we found was half. We would get the watch for $17, almost $18. The pants for almost $11, $10.75, and the shirt for almost $8. Very good sale. I think we can make a whole outfit out of this. Okay. Next video is going to be finding 25% off sales. See you then.